Hello, good afternoon or good morning depending on where you are. Today during this webinar what I wanted to do was to discuss about network observability and the work we've done with Centreon and IP Fabric to bring more visibility into your network. So my name is Sebastien D'Argoeuves. I'm a solution architect for IP Fabric and it's a pleasure to be here today. So to approach this webinar, what we're going to do is very briefly discuss about what is observability, and then I'm going to explain how IP Fabric and Centreon are working together to make sure that the data that you need to see is correctly in your monitoring. And once I've explained briefly how the integration works, we're going to go through a demo where we're going to start from a blank Centreon and show how the plugin that we've worked together to create is working. And without further ado, let's get cracking. All right, so the first thing is, what is observability? So I've had an interesting read through the EMA research that was published in October 22 about network observability. There is a mix of information that is coming from that, where for some engineers this is going to be sort of a buzzword, where for them it's still going to be seen as I'm still doing network management. For some others it was more the network observability is a broadening and deepening of network monitoring. What they meant is they had a good monitoring of their infrastructure. What they don't always have is a good understanding of how much the network is impacting the business or the application level. Or another one which is quite similar is how the network observability is a superset of network monitoring, where for them network monitoring is what you need to have, and that network observability brings you more information into what the network provides in terms of, again, business application level. So again, so this is, I would say, a term. It doesn't have to, we don't have to agree all on what this means. It's just something that is being used more and more. So maybe in a way, yes, it is a buzzword, but for me, observability is really kind of bringing you more insight into your network. And this is why, now moving on to the next slide, we've partnered with Centreon to create a plugin where we want to bring more information into the monitoring. So how does it work? Today I'm not going to go in length in terms of how IP Fabric works. So we are a network assurance platform. Our goal is to do a discovery of the network. So what IP Fabric is going to do is, like a network engineer, is going to connect to the different devices in your environment and collect not just the configuration, but really all the network data. So the state, understanding what protocols are running, how they're running, so that we can really understand each of those devices, how do they behave within the infrastructure. So it's not just about the configuration, and the discovery is really like a network engineer would do. So you've got to imagine you're working for a new company and someone asks you, understand my network, and this is what IP Fabric is doing. And it's going to be done frequently and regularly, like several times a day, depending on what you want to set up. So IP Fabric is now going to collect that network data, which is going to contain, the full infrastructure. We're going to have an understanding of the topology. Every time a new discovery is done, we'll have an updated documentation and information about the compliance. So now what we want to do is, Centreon wants to collect that inventory, because this is what they're going to use to know what do they need to monitor in the network. And Centreon is then going to do the monitoring and check the performance and availability of the network. what they needed from us was to say, we need to make sure that we know what we need to monitor. And what IP Fabric doesn't do is having that real-time monitoring. We work on a snapshot basis, so every new discovery we're going to have the full understanding of the infrastructure, but we don't do real-time, so we won't be able to say, oh, 10 seconds ago something happened, and this is the role of the monitoring. And that's why the partnership we've done together is to say, Centreon does great at doing monitoring, we don't do that, so how can we work together to ensure that we're going to give the best information to both tools. Alright, so now that we've done the first part, I would say let's jump straight into the demo. So, so what you're going to see here is a new instance of Centreon. What you can see is that we've got absolutely nothing in there at the moment, so it's all blank. And on the second tab, what I have here is an IP Fabric instance which has one snapshot and about 47 devices in here. So the first thing that we would want to do is to say, okay, I want those devices now to be fully monitored. Several ways you can do it is you can look into the inventory, export the information, push it manually, or use Centreon to create hosts one after the other, or do it more or less manually. But today what we want to do is do this automatically using the plugin. One thing that I'm also going to show as well briefly is the topology that I want to use later. So this is a subset of that inventory, so what we have in here, and this is showing me the topology, and we're going to use that to explain what happened when there is a change in the network and you want to ensure that the monitoring is updated. So for example, if you add new devices, did you think about adding them into your monitoring? All right, let's go in here. So Centreon, what we need to do is make sure that we've got the plugin, which I've already installed in here. So I've got my IP Fabric network devices, and I'm just going to quickly configure it. It's pretty simple. The only thing I'm going to need in here, I'm not using a proxy, it's all hosted in here locally, so I don't have a problem. Alright, so what I need to do here is create an API token. So I'm going to go there, create a new token. This is for Centreon inventory, and I only need read-only access. So I'm just going to do that, and that's pretty much my settings done. So that's Centreon, and that's okay. So I've done the first part, and now what I need to do in here is just specify the IP address of my instance. So I have my IP Fabric instance, and in here I just have to put a few options, and that's related to the SSL certificate, which I don't have set up in here. So let's get that. And also is the version of API that I'm using as well. So I just need to specify those as parameters. Now the next step is about the mapping. So what information Centreon is going to get from IP Fabric, and how does it convert to the information that they have. So for example, if I look in here, some Arista devices in Centreon, they need to make sure that they understand that this is an Arista and the correct template is going to be used to do the monitoring for those. Now what I can do is define different rules of what do I want to do once I've finished the discovery. So in here you can specify what's going to happen. So by default this is good. I just wanted to say maybe we want to update as well. So every time we're going to do a new discovery where Centreon collect the inventory from IP Fabric, we're also going to try to push the information inside there. So if a new device is added, we're automatically going to add it to Centreon to start doing the monitoring. And now the execution. So this is where I'm going to do something different than what I would have in production, but you would probably say I want to run it once a day, and making sure that you're going to map it to what you have in IP Fabric. For the purpose of today, I'm just going to do it where I'm going to execute it myself, and this is what I'm going to do. So now what we're going to see is doing the first check. We have discovered the 47 devices. So what we're now seeing is that the devices are being added at the moment to IP Fabric, to Centreon. All right, so while this is happening, and the reason why I'm saying this is because I know it can take a few minutes sometime for this to be all good. I want to show what's happening in terms of what we have in our environment and how it's going to be reflected in Centreon. So in a few minutes, we are going to have our infrastructure, which is going to be monitored in Centreon. But as we were saying, is a network is always going to change. There is going to be things that are going to be added, removed, and you want to make sure that this is always reflected into your monitoring. So in this situation, so we've got a couple of sites here, and there are a few things that are happening. So we want to create a new office. So one of the colocation in here is going to be extended. We're going to have new devices because we need to extend, have more servers maybe in that room. So a few things that needs to happen. The role of IP Fabric is going to be, this is the status right now, but what I want to do is as soon as I finish my change, I want to make sure I'm going to create a new discovery to see what has happened. So today the change, I'm just going to assume that it has been completed, and I'm running the discovery, which would be happening at the end of the change. So again, so this is also going to take a few minutes, so I'm going to let that run. And we're going to check as well what's been happening on Centreon, where we now have more devices that are appearing. And you can see in here a mix of different vendors that we had in IP Fabric. And it's still doing a few more of those. Like I said, that can take a few minutes, and that's kind of expected at a time where Centreon is just going through those devices and finding out the one that do respond. Cool. So yeah, only two missing, and then we will have our full infrastructure from day 0 being fully monitored. Okay, so while the discovery is ongoing, I'm going to go back to my diagram that I was showing earlier, just to explain what's going to happen with the change. So we had the change, so this is the infrastructure that we have on day 0. One thing that we also wanted to do as part of the change is highlight some of the compliance verification that IP Fabric can do out of the box, which could be, for example, check the single point of failure. So in this environment, what we can see is that some of the devices here are not dual connected. So this is something that we want to fix as well as part of the change. Some of the other custom verification that we can do can be based as well on other criteria. So for example, in here, I can have check the community, making sure that all the devices in green have been configured with some SNMP. And what I can see here, for example, is the firewall that I've got here does not have a configuration regarding SNMP. So I might see that as well in Centreon, because if I do not have SNMP there, I might not be able by default to do more than a ping to see if I've got reachability to run the device. So let's have a quick look into that. So this is my inventory. So I can see that the firewall has been added, it's discovered, But what I'm seeing in here is that I'm not able to collect the SNMP information from it by default. And that's because there was no, when we imported the inventory, there was no SNMP detail that we could tell Centreon, this is how you're going to pull those devices. Now I can see as well, I've got a couple of verification that are appearing in red as well for those devices. So let's look first from a Centreon perspective. So what this is saying is those two devices have a problem with their environment and something to do with the fan. So this is all virtual environment. But let's look into IP Fabric to see what we are seeing. I'm going to check the dashboard in IP Fabric, and what we're seeing is this is the one where we have two fan supply which are showing that failure problem. So we can see that there is a match of the information that we see in both. It's just two different ways of doing it, where in IP Fabric this is based on the state. So when we did the discovery connected to the device, we looked at what is the status of the device. So what are the BGP session, the SPF, but also is there something wrong in terms of the environment of that device? And in that situation, we had those fans which had the problem. Where Centreon worked differently, it collected the information from those two devices to know how to do SNMP queries towards it, and was able to see as well via SNMP that there was a problem with those fans. So yeah, different ways of showing information. The goal in here is bring the information from the inventory of IP Fabric and the SNMP detail to correctly or to better monitor the infrastructure. Alright, so the discovery you can see has completed. So yes, so that's my new discovery. So this is my post change discovery. And I can see I've got more devices in here now. So first thing first, let's go and look at the topology that I have here. And indeed, I can see that I've got more things than I had before. So with IP Fabric, you can do a comparison to see how it has changed from the previous one. So previous one, the one devices in red were not present. So which is good. So this is what I wanted. I wanted to ensure that I'm going to have more switches in that collocation, and this is the new site that I've added. So this is great. Now my problem is I finished the change. Did I think about upgrading or updating my monitoring? So because I've decided to do it manually, I have to force the execution of this. I can do it in a way where it's going to do it once a day, for example, or after each snapshot, to ensure that we're now going to collect the information from the latest snapshot in IP Fabric. So what I'm doing for now is I'm just going to force the refresh manually, and I'm going to refresh there. And now what I'm seeing is that I've got 56 devices that were discovered instead of the 47. And what is showing me there is the new devices are being pulled at the moment. So without having to worry about anything, and if it's correctly configured, I'm going to have Centreon that's always going to make sure that it can see the full environment that I have in IP Fabric. So let me just okay, well, it's pretty much completed already. This is good, and then it's got to go through those again. Anyway, I think this is what I really wanted to show is this. So we now have our monitoring, which is reflecting the situation of my network. So all of the devices that I have in my after the change have now been added correctly to my monitoring. Alright, so that's really what I wanted to show today in terms of the integration that we have with Centreon, the plugin, how it works. Obviously, there is a lot of other use cases and things that can be done. At the moment, this is I would say the first stage of this integration, and this is where we'd love to hear some feedback, how you would want to use it. And this is where, for that, I would say we are very, very keen to have any feedback on how would you want to use this information, but also is there something more that you want to get in your monitoring that is coming from the information that IP Fabric has. Okay, but that's really what I wanted to show today. I'm really just going to finish really by saying a big thank you to everyone. So that's the wrong slide. And that's, I just wanted to finish with this. So a big thank you to everyone for attending today, for listening. If there is any question, we'll be more than happy to answer those. And in the meantime, I'm just going to say, have a great rest of your day. And again, thank you very much for listening.